Welcome to the Rise of the Trades podcast, the show dedicated to helping you to build, grow, and scale your trades or construction business. All rise for your host, Craig Wilkinson.
Welcome to this week's coaching episode of the Rise of the Trades podcast, where we help trades and construction business owners to skyrocket leads, explode net profits without having to graft 60 hours a week and becoming that busy fool. In this episode, I'm going to be teaching you 5 ways to increase your profits and therefore gaining a positive cash flow to help you build, grow and scale your business. But before we go there, could I please just ask you a very quick favour? And that is whatever platform you're listening to this podcast episode on right now, could I please ask you to consider hitting either the follow or the subscribe button? Because the more people we can get to follow and subscribe our podcast, the more the algorithm is going to kick in and therefore push our episodes out to more tradesmen and women that need our help and support. So if you can hit the subscribe and follow button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Now, let's transition over to this week's coaching episode. When I first set up my joinery and building company way back in 1994, one of the biggest drivers and the biggest goals of me setting up my business in the first place was I wanted to earn more money that I was currently earning under being employed as a joiner, a bench joiner as I am by trade, working in a joiner's shop. You see, I wanted to build a better quality of life for me and my young family back then. And the way in which I saw this is I thought, right, if I go self-employed and set up my own company and I get enough work coming in, surely I can make more money working for myself than I can do working for somebody else. So one of the bigger drivers at that time was, listen, I wanted to earn more money. I was fed up earning what I was earning on books. I was fed up of earning and making other people all the money while just being an employed member of staff. And in all honesty, I thought if I can bring enough work in, I can nail it. And I'll become a multi-millionaire and I'll have all this time on my hands because running a business, you're all millionaires and you've all got loads of spare time on your hands. No, that's not how it works, Craig. But I didn't know this back then. I just thought, if I work for myself, I'm guaranteed to earn more money. And what unfolded over the first, and I'm embarrassed to say this, 12 years. Yes, you heard me. 12 years before I sorted myself out, I made some terrible financial mistakes that became disasters over that 12-year period. And the sad thing is that the vast majority of trades or construction business owners, and it doesn't matter whether you're a joiner like me, a plumber, plasterer, scaffolder, tiler, renderer, it doesn't matter what you do. The sad reality is that the vast majority of tradesmen and women are not making the amount of profit that they should be making in the business for all the blood, the sweat, the tears, the sacrifices, the commitment that they put into their business. In fact, if you're anything like I was the last one to get paid on every single job. And I was struggling financially for 12 years because of these mistakes that I've been making in the past. And having coached 30,000 trades business owners since 2012, I can tell you now, honestly, despite what you see on Facebook, despite what you see on Instagram and all the perfect lifestyle and look at what I've got and look at what I'm doing, look how many vans I've got on the road, look how many staff I've got working for you. I am telling you now, behind the scenes, there are more businesses struggling than there are actually making it financially within their business. Now, you might be one of the minority and say, Craig, I'm doing incredibly well in my business. I've got high net profits. I'm making the money that I want to make. Brilliant. Stick with doing what you're doing, but then bolt on what I'm going to share with you in this episode. Or if you're there now and you're going, do you know what, Craig? I'm just about breaking even. I get to the end of my financial year. My accountant does my books and my end of year accounts. And I'm about breaking even. I'm taking a decent wage out of it, but I'm not doing anything over and above that. Then you need to listen in. Or even if you're at the point where you are grafting and you are putting the effort into your business, but you get to the end of the financial year and you've actually made a loss and you've not even got enough money to pay any taxes or anything like that, then 100% you've got to take major action on this episode. Because sometimes we can make financial decisions mainly by winging it. We make a winging it decision. We make the financial decision that we think's right at that time. But further down the line, that decision comes to bite us in the backside. And when it bites us in the backside from a financial point of view, then we're in trouble. Then the problems and the sleepless nights start to kick in. So as much as I'm going to give you the 5 steps and 5 ways to improve your profits and your cash flow, let's be realistic about this, because for me, back in them first 12 years of running my business, I made some financial bad mistakes, and the consequences that then had a knock-on effect and brought me were absolutely devastating. In all honesty, were devastating. So as much as I want to give you the 5 things that we need to do to improve it, let's have a look at some of the things that were going off in my business and in my life when I didn't understand these numbers in my business and I weren't making any money and I was skint and I was going into debt, because that's where I was at. Let's not sugarcoat over them. Let's bring them to the forefront and let's be realistic about these. So I'm going to share with you 5 critical consequences of making no profit and having a negative cash flow that happened to me personally in them first 12 years. Now, I'm not saying these are all the negative consequences, because if you've got financial challenges, they might be over and above what I'm going to share with you now. But let's get real with this. We need to be realistic about the situation around our cash, because if we're not making money or we're losing money and we're burying our heads in the sand, which is what I did, I'm telling you now, it's only going to come back and bite you in the bum at some point further down the line. So negative consequence number 1 for me was the constant stress and financial pressure. When there's no profit or you've got a poor cash flow, the business is a constant worry and sleepless nights. And then you start asking yourself questions like, am I going to be able to pay this week's wages? I've not got enough money to pay me subbies. Can I cover the VAT bill this quarter? There's not enough money left in the pot at the end of the job to pay all my materials. I've got all these invoices coming in from my suppliers. Where's the money? And how am I going to pay my mortgage? I've got to put food on the table for my family. I've still got bills to pay at home. And instead of building a business that gives you freedom, you end up running a business that owns you, and the stress becomes relentless. And that's what were happening to me. Negative consequence number 2 is that I became the lowest paid person in the business. And the harsh reality is that many trades businesses, you're in the same boat, where you, the business owner, the one taking the biggest risk, the one with all the commitment, the one that's paying all the materials and the finances and everything to make this business run, you are the last one to get paid. And cash flow is tight because you've got to pay your staff first. You've got employed staff. You might have got subcontractors that you've got to pay. If you have got the money to pay your suppliers, you've got to pay your suppliers first, or otherwise you're going to get put on stop. Then there's the taxes that you've got to pay. But where does the money come from, the taxes? Because you've been told you're making maybe a little bit of money, or you've got to pay your self-assessment tax at end of January, and then there's no money. So you can end up working 60, 70 hours a week just to survive. And by the time you've paid everybody out, there's hardly anything left in the pot for you. Negative consequence number 3 is the business cannot grow. As much as I got the passion to want to grow my business, without profits and without a positive cash flow, growth becomes impossible. You can't afford to hire better staff and bring in more people. Maybe you're struggling doing your admin and you're staying up till after o'clock at night and you know that you need a VA or an admin person, but you can't afford them. You can't afford to start investing money into things like marketing and your attract strategy to generate more profitable leads coming in. You might need to upgrade your equipment, whether that's your tools or your van. You can't afford to do that. Systems and software and AI and ServiceMate and Leadzilla need to be introduced to systemize and automate your business, but you haven't got the money for the monthly subscriptions. And then because all this is happening, you might have got an opportunity to take on a bigger job or a better job, but you've got no way of being able to finance it because you haven't got the money or you're on stop at different suppliers and therefore you're hampering growth. And instead of moving your business forward, the business gets stuck in survival mode. And in survival mode, this kills momentum. And you can't grow and scale a business when you just literally week to week, month to month, hand to mouth. Critical mistake number 4 is your relationships and your personal life start to suffer. The money worries, the stress, the problems that your work and your business is going to you are going to end up following you home. And when the business is struggling financially, it can lead to arguments at home, whether that's just because you're stressed out and you're snapping at people and you're snapping at your kids. It's not your kids' fault that you're poor when it comes to cash flow and pricing jobs, is it? It's not their fault, so why are you taking it out on them? It can then be arguments about we haven't got enough money this month to pay his mortgage and now we're falling behind on his mortgage, or we can't afford to pay his credit card bills because we've racked them up and now we're behind on that. All this causes stress and anxiety, so now you're not sleeping at night. You're laid awake worrying. And I remember it, that gut-wrenching feeling, that curdling and that churning that you've got to get up again on a Monday morning to go and feed this beast and work in this business that's just causing you all this stress. You're feeling like you're failing your family. You know, going back to what I said at the beginning of this episode, I said that one of the main triggers and reasons why I set up my own business is I wanted to provide a better quality of life for my family. And in the end, I'm creating a worse one because now I'm earning less than I were when I were on the books. And I've got all the stress and responsibility of running a business that goes with it. And I'm working stupid hours. And eventually, mentally, physically, and emotionally, you end up burning out. You end up hitting that brick wall and you end up just, I can't cope with it anymore. You've not got the headspace for it. And that awful feeling of failure kicks in. And many tradespeople start the business to create a better quality of life like I did, yet poor cash flow ends up creating the exact opposite. Now, all of those 4, I'm going to be honest with you, I experienced all of them in that first 12 years. But critical step number 5, I didn't get to this point, thank goodness, because I did something about it. 12 years in, when all this were happening, I realised that I needed help. I couldn't continue to carry on like this. So what did I do? I brought in a business coach into my business to teach me how to build and grow a business correctly. But critical step number 5 can sometimes be a stretch too far for anyone to pull the business back round. So step number 5, which I didn't experience, but having been involved with coaching many businesses, sometimes they can even come to me or come to Trades Freedom Club and they want help, but unfortunately they are that far gone that there is no help. So step number 5 is the business actually collapses. And this is the harsh truth with people who bury their head in the sand and don't understand the numbers in the business. If the business is constantly running without profit and positive cash flow, it becomes unsustainable. And if you're not getting on top side of the numbers and tracking the numbers and you just bury your head in the sand and allow this to continue to happen, then guess what happens? The bills start to pile up. The debt starts to increase. The overdraft has now gone huge. You're now maxing out credit cards to be able to bail you out. You're now starting to use any VAT money or tax money that's set to one side as the overdraft to pay your suppliers. Your suppliers eventually end up losing trust in you, and eventually the business owner is forced to either close the company down, take a big personal debt and a personal guarantee and a loan to put into the business, but now then the debt is with you personally and not with the business. It might mean you're forcing to close the business and go back self-employed, go back employed, working for someone else, or even worse, the business folds, goes into insolvency, and you have to send the business bust. And all of this usually happens not because you were a bad tradesperson and you didn't know what you were doing on the tools. It's because you never learnt the skill and the financial skill of cash flowing and making money and profit in a business. And all those cash flow problems that I had back then, I brought it on myself because I'd never taken the time out to understand how money and cash flows and works within a business. I were a great joiner. I were brilliant at what I did. I'd got fiddle jobs galore at evenings and weekends, and I'm thinking, I could do this full time if I could just take more work on and keep me going throughout each week, and I charge this amount per hour or this amount per day, I'd be making more money. But it's crazy, don't you think, that in a business where we know that cash is king, and if we're not making a profit, basically we haven't got a business, how little the vast majority of business owners know when it comes to the finances within the business. It's absolutely criminal when you think about it. But this is where I found myself at, and it's only at the 11th hour when I felt like I was drowning in debt. It's only at that point when I brought a business coach in. And oh, by the way, you might say, well, hang on a minute. If you were drowning in debt, how could you afford a business coach, Craig? Well, listen, I was that desperate. This is what I did. Me and Sarah, my wife, we remortgaged our house. We got some equity left in our house. And how I eventually got out of debt and how I eventually afforded a business coaches, I'm like, I'm going to have to take the equity out of the house by remortgaging. That then's going to go towards paying off the debt, which I did. And the bit that were left over, I thought, right, I can't make this mistake again. I need to find a solution. And that solution for me were a business coach. So 19 years ago, I brought this business coach into my business, and he started teaching me about the fundamentals about finance within a business. Because if you haven't got this right, you ain't got a business, you're inevitably going to end up in problems. So that's what I had to do. I had to remortgage my house to bail me out of the mess that I put myself in. But then learning the numbers and understanding the numbers, when I got to grip with it, I could see straight away where I'd been going wrong. It were evident where I'd been going wrong. But I've been going wrong for 12 years. Had someone said to me, Craig, back in 1994, when you set your business up, one of the first things you've got to do is learn and understand the numbers in the business so you're making profit. But nobody ever told me that. I was just a good joiner that were good at what he did and therefore took work on, like many of us do. But if we're taking work on and we're not understanding things like our overheads and things like that in our business, and we're pricing jobs wrong, before we've even started the job, we're losing money. We cannot afford to do that. So in the next chapter, I'm going to be walking you through 5 ways in which I guarantee you'll make more profit. And these 5 ways will also help you improve a negative cash flow into a positive cash flow. So what you become is what I call a cash-rich company. In other words, you're making money and you've always got money coming off them jobs into your bank. So you've always got enough money in the bank. Should you ever decide to stop that job, or there's a complication on that job with a customer or client, you've always got enough money off that job to have paid your labour, paid your materials, paid your VAT, paid your tax, and still be left with a little bit left over at the end. So grab your notepads, grab your pens and your tablets, and let's get stuck in. Now, in this chapter, not only am I going to give you the 5 different ways, but I'm also going to be sharing with you some additional podcast episodes that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to give you the podcast number so that each one of these 5 areas, I've got a separate podcast on that will delve down deeper and give you more context into each one of these areas. So I don't just want you making notes of what I'm going to share with you. I want you making notes of the other podcast episodes that I'm going to give you that's going to be part of this full-blown episode. All right? So the first of the 5 ways where you're going to make more profit and get a positive cash flow is this. Write this down. Niching down on your products and services. Let me say it again. Niching down on your products and your services. And the mistake that I see being made all the time, and I was incredibly guilty of this mistake, is by offering too many products and services. And some of them products and services that you are going to be offering are either going to be 1, breaking even, 2, losing your money, or 3, not giving you as much net profit as what some of the other services that you offer are giving you. Let me explain. As a joiner by trade, I'm a bench joiner by trade. So I used to manufacture doors, windows, stairs, conservatories, bar fronts, shop fronts. We used to do all that. And that's what I was by a trade. But when I went self-employed, I weren't only just manufacturing. I had a little 2,000 square foot joiner's shop. I didn't just manufacture, I learned how to fit. So now I'm doing manufacturing, I'm doing first fix joinery, I'm doing second fix joinery, I'm doing shop fitting joinery, I'm doing house bashing joinery, I'm building loft conversions, I'm building basement conversions, I'm doing extensions. I could fit your gutters. I could re-roof your house. I could put your fence panels down or fit your decking down for spring, ready for you to enjoy your garden. I could fit doors. I could fit windows. I did skirting boards, architraves, door casings, roofing. All this work I could do, and I did well. Why? Because I was a joiner, and my skill set as a joiner allowed me to do about 15 different services. So guess what I did? I did all them services. But that's what made me ultimately a busy fool, because I didn't know, out of all them different services that I offered, I didn't know which ones made me the most amount of profit. All I were bothered about doing in my early days were bringing enough work in to keep me going full time. And I did that. And then when I got more work coming in for just me, I thought, brilliant, I'll take another joiner on. So I did, I took another joiner on. Now I'm thinking, I'm going to be making twice as much money because I can make off his day rate or his hourly rate, or I could price a job and make profit off that job. But what I weren't factoring in is the increased overhead costs, is the extra time that it would take me to look at twice as many jobs, price twice as many jobs, do twice as many surveys, do twice as many ordering of materials, organising twice as much labour. Somebody's got to pay for that time. You don't work for free, do you? So then when I got two of us going, the next thing is I've got even more work coming in. I know what I'll do. I'll take a third joiner on. Then it were a fourth joiner. Then it were a fifth joiner. Then it were a sixth joiner. And it just escalated. So now I've probably got 10 joiners working for me at this time. And I'm doing everything. Why? Because joiners could do everything. But I weren't making any money. Because one day we'd be breaking even, next day we'd be losing money on a job, day after we'd be making money, but combined throughout the month or the year, I ended up losing money because I was doing too many things. Do you get me? So whatever trade you are, you've got to start thinking like this, and trust me, write this down. It's not the trade that you are in that makes you the profit. It's not the trade that you're in that makes you the profit. It's the service or the product that you're offering under the umbrella of that trade that makes you the profit. Let me give you an example of what I mean. When I started working with my business coach, well, more than 19 years ago now, actually, he said to me, Craig, out of all these things that you're doing, what makes you the money? I'm like, I don't know. It's like, aren't you tracking your profit and loss on every job? Aren't you tracking how much labour, materials, overhead contribution, gross profit and net profit you're making on a job? I'm like, no. He's like, why? I said, well, one, I ain't got time to dick about with spreadsheets because that's what it would have taken back in 90s and early 2000s. It was spreadsheets. I ain't got time to do that. And in all honesty, I don't know what my overheads are. I don't even know what gross profit is or net profit. I don't know how to work it out. And he's like, seriously, you're running a business and you don't even know what gross and net profit is or how to work them out. He's like, what's your profit margin? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, flipping heck, there's no wonder you're paddling up creek. Do you know what I mean? You've got to learn these things. So it materialised that when we got to grips with the numbers, it materialised that actually loft conversions and garage conversions made us more net profit than joinery manufacturing, than house bashing, than bar fitting and shop fitting and all the other things I were doing. It were actually loft conversions and garage conversion that made us the most amount of net profit. So once we understood this, we said, right, what we need to do is pick up the marketing activity around loft conversions and garage conversions. Let's pick that up so we can generate more of those leads. And at the point where we've got that many leads coming in, purely and simply just for loft and garages, the joinery manufacturing, the house bashing, the first fix, the second fix, the extensions, the roofing, all that type of work that you're doing that's not making you profit, we can eventually let that go because you'll have enough work coming in just for loft and garage conversions. Now, this didn't happen overnight because one, I had to understand the numbers on everything I were offering. Two, I had to get the marketing right. And three, we had to start generating leads. But within 12 months of me making that decision to understand the numbers, all of a sudden, all we're getting leads coming in for were our most profitable products and services we offered, which in this example is loft conversions and garage conversions, which meant that whether I got in my van in the morning and went on the job, or my other 10, 15 joiners went on a job, we knew that that job were a loft or a garage. So therefore, we're maximising our profitability every single day. And that alone started making me more profit than I'd ever made before. Why? Because I'd niched down on the products or the service that we were offering by understanding the numbers in the business. Are you doing this? And what I mean by it's the products or services that you offer under the umbrella of your business that makes you the money is exactly that. What we started offering under the umbrella of our business, our joinery business, were loft and garage conversions, and that were it. We got rid of all the other things that broke even or didn't make us any money. focusing on the things that did. Now, I don't know what trade you are. You might be a sparky, and right now you're doing everything that a sparky can do. So you might be doing rewires, you might be doing first fix and second fix for a builder on his extensions that he does. You might be doing EV charging points. You might have moved into doing solar panels and PV installations. You might be doing consumer units and fuse board swaps. You might be working for Mrs. Jones down the road who just wants a new dimmer switch fitting. If you're doing all that, just because you're a sparky doesn't mean to say that you need to offer all that, does it? Because some of that work will be more profitable than others. What your job as a business owner is to do, and that's what you are, you're a businessman or woman. You're not a tradesperson, you're a businessman or woman. It's your job to understand the numbers and work out of all the electrical work or all that plumbing work or all that plastering work or whatever trade you are, what is it? What products or service are we offering that maximises profitability? Then we niche down on that, get the marketing right and generate leads and leads alone for those products and services. And that's it. So the first thing is you are more than likely offering a product or a service that's not as profitable as others, and you need to identify what they are, move them on, and get more of the profitable services coming into your business. Now, I said to you that I'm going to give you some podcast episodes. So for you to delve down and go deeper into niching and how we do that and the benefits of niching, because it's not just the profit side of it, it's your marketing becomes easier because you're not marketing everything. It becomes easier to systemize and automate your business because now all I were doing were building loft and garage conversions, which made it a lot simpler to systemize the business. There's so many benefits. So to niche down, which you've got to check out, even if you say, Craig, I've already niched. Right, brilliant. Can we niche again? Can we drill it down even more? I want you to listen to episode number 32. Because in episode 32, I go into the niching strategy in a lot more detail. So go and check out episode 32. The second way in which we're going to improve our profits and cash flow is by, write this down, understanding the numbers in our business. You've heard me say it a number of times already. You've got to understand the numbers in your business. Now, if you're anything like I used to be, right, and if I'm being honest with you, maths at school was not my strong subject, right? Never has been, right? So I'm not brilliant when it comes to maths, full stop. And trying to learn how to price jobs properly, I didn't really understand how to price a job properly. I used to come up with these figures and cobble these figures together. And then I put my price in. But really, there's a lot more that goes off behind the scenes when it comes to the numbers in your business. So one, I weren't strong on numbers. Two, I didn't understand what numbers I needed to work on because nobody had ever told me. And three, the person who you might think you can go to get all these numbers, your accountant, I learnt the hard way in the fact that I had poor accountants, I'd had poor advice. You know, my accountant back then would contact me usually once a year, maybe a month before my year end, and say, right, I need all your invoices, sales invoices, purchase invoices, all your stuff that you bought personally. I need all your receipts for everything. Come and bring them. I was like a big box because Xero and QuickBooks back then didn't exist. I was like a big box with everything in, all these folders and files, dump them on the desk. And then a couple of weeks later, I'd get a phone call. Oh, you need to come in and see me. We need to have a meeting about your end of year accounts. And I used to dread it. I used to absolutely dread it because I knew what were coming. And I'd sit down with my old accountant And they start saying things like, oh, Craig, you've got this profit margin and your gross profit's this and your net profit's that. And this is what your balance sheet looks like. And you've got an overdrawn director's loan account and your corporation tax and all this. And they just come out with all this bamboozle of words that I'd heard of. I'd heard of gross profit, I'd heard of balance sheets, I'd heard of overdrawn directors' loan accounts, but did I actually understand it? I ain't got a clue. It was like alien to me. So then they'd start going through the accounts with me, going down all these different pages with all these numbers on, and they'd be going, yeah, and this is your director's loan account, and we need to make sure that we can pay that off, and we've got to move this to here, and then you've got this, and then you've got your P11D, and then you've got all your benefits in kind. And I'm like, what the hell are they on about here? And you know what? I was that embarrassed that I didn't understand what were happening. I just used to nod my head. And I'd sit there nodding my head. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand. And I'd be nodding my head like I knew what were happening. And I had no idea what were happening. How sad's that? I had no idea on what were happening in my own business. So we have to understand the basics of the numbers in our trades or construction business. And what I'm going to give you now are the top 6 numbers that you need to understand. And the way in which you're going to understand this is very simple. You're going to get a meeting lined up with your accountant. Do it online. Do it through Zoom if you're busy. And you're going to ask your accountant to fully understand in layman's terms, not in their spiel, in a normal person's language, what each one of these means and how you understand it and how are these figures worked out. And then if you're still bamboozled, go to ChatGPT. And said to ChatGPT, how do I work out my hourly rate? What is a gross profit and how is it worked out? And get the data that you need to understand this, because if you don't understand these 6 basic numbers in your business, you don't know what they mean and how they worked out. I am telling you now, you're winging it. And you're keeping your fingers crossed that at the end of every job, there's enough money left in bank to pay everybody off, including yourself, and have some left over. That's winging it. We can't do that. That's what gets you into financial difficulty. So write these 6 numbers down that I want you to go and check out. Number 1 is working out your hourly rate correctly. Because honestly, most people will not be working out their hourly rate correctly. They don't know what goes into the hourly rate, how to work it out, how to make sure that our hourly rate includes things like downtime, rain days, sick time, if your people are off sick, your employees are off sick, pension contributions, holiday pay, all that lot needs going into how do you work out your hourly rate correctly. Number 2, overhead contribution. And what I mean by this is your business has got overheads, it's got running costs, and you need to work out what them running costs are of your business. You've got van insurance, you've got all the maintenance on vans, you've got your insurance, maybe a gas safe, and you've got all them certifications to pay for. You've got marketing expenses, you've got loads of running costs, you've got your mobile phone, you've got your laptops, you've got everything else that you need, your subscriptions, your Xero, your Leadzilla, your ServiceMate, all that lot is an overhead. Well, that overhead has got to be accounted for, and it's got to be factored into an hourly rate, or it's got to be factored into a day rate, because your customers have got to pay that overhead. But how do you do that? And where do you get the numbers from? Number 3, I want you to write down your profit margin. Your profit margin. In other words, once you've added your labour up and your materials up, that includes all your overhead contributions as well, you need to add a margin on top for your profit. And I see people, even in our Trades Freedom Club Facebook group, saying, How much profit margin do you all add on jobs? And then everybody's going 10%, 12%, 30%, 40%. And it's like, why are you asking other people? This is your business. It doesn't matter what other people are adding on. This is your business, and your overheads are different to other people's. You might be a one-man band with an apprentice and one van. But then you're asking everybody else what their margins are, and their margins and their overheads. They've got officers and they've got 10 vans and they've got 20 members of staff. So therefore their overheads and their margins have got to be a lot more than what yours has if you're just a one-person band and an apprentice. And now you start comparing. You've got to stop doing that. You've got to work out your profit margin. And that profit margin is what's going to eventually become your financial profit that's going to determine you and your family's lifestyle. So it doesn't matter what anybody else is charging. It matters what you're charging. You need to know what your profit margin is. Number 4, write down gross profit. Gross profit. You need to understand what your gross profit is on every single job, because you need to work out what that gross profit figure is going to be when we're cash flowing things out or when we're pricing another job. And very quickly, a gross profit is worked out like this. It's super simple, really. Your gross profit is your labour and your materials on a job, not including overheads, just your labour and your materials. If your labour's 500 quid, and your materials is 400 quid, that's 900 quid. If you put a price in of £1,000, you've made £1,000 gross profit. That's gross profit. But remember, that's not the money that you take home with you. You haven't made that, because what we need to strip off of the gross profit is figure number 5 that I want you to get to know, which is your net profit. Because what we do with the net profit is we take that, in this example, the £100 that you've made on that job, but out of that £100, you've got all your overheads to pay. You've got all your tax to pay. So strip off your overhead off that 100 quid, strip off the tax off that 100 quid, you might be left with 20. So your net profit that you get to keep is 20 quid, not 100 quid. That is what you call net profit. And number 6, what we need to be doing, number 6 is profit and loss. Write it down, profit and loss. Now, ultimately, we don't want to be making a loss. Every job we should make should be profitable. But this is where you're going to analyse at either the end of each job, all your labour, all your materials, all your overheads, all your tax that's gone into that job, and that's going to give you your profit and loss. Or you could give it over a period of time. You could say, well, rather than looking at each job, let me look at the profit and loss over a week, where I've done 6 jobs this week, so let me take the profit and loss over a week. You could do it over a month, you could do it over a quarter, and your accountant will 100% do it over 12 months. But you need to be top side of these 6 basic numbers. And if you can't honestly tell me what your exact hourly rate is, you can't tell me what your overheads contribution is, you can't tell me what profit margin you're adding on to each job, you can't tell me what your gross profit is, what your net profit is, or show me a report at the click of a button on a profit and loss, either per job or per given period of time, then you're winging it. Because they are the basics of numbers that you need to get to grips with. Now, I'm going to give you 2 podcast episodes that I want you to listen to that will go into these numbers in more detail. The first one is episode number 7, which is where I teach you how to work out your gross and your net profit margins. I explain it to you simply, and I even give you the sum and the math for you to be able to work that out yourself. So that's episode 7. But I'd also like you to check out episode number 61, which is an interview that I did with Julie Robinson, who's an incredible accountant and helps many of our Trades Freedom Club members increase the profit margins and reduce their tax bill, where me and Julie go through how to increase your profits and stop overpaying on taxes. And that's episode number 61. So step number 3 of how we're going to increase our profits and have positive cash flow is pricing jobs correctly. Pricing jobs correctly. And what I mean by this is, I know for sure that most people aren't pricing jobs correctly. All you're doing is you're doing something like this. You're adding up all your materials on that job. And for some of you might add a little bit on top, like 10% for wastage or whatever. Then you're adding up all your labour. And then what you're doing is you're adding them two figures together and then whacking something on top for profit. So you're taking your labour and your materials and then adding something on for profit. And then what you'll do is, and I guarantee you'll have done this, you'll look at that figure and then that little devil on your shoulder pops up and it starts questioning the price. And then you'll start looking at price thinking, oh, would I pay that? Oh, it seems a bit high, that. Oh, I'll probably not win job if I put in it at that. So here's what I'm going to do. Let me just pluck a figure out of fresh air. Let me just pluck 1,500 quid and I'll knock that off. Oh, and then you knock 1,500 quid off and then you look at that price and you go, oh, that looks a bit more manageable. I'll put the price in at that. And then you win the job and then you're kicking yourself then. But you've just plucked a figure out of fresh air that you're going to knock off. I know you've done it because I used to do it myself. We cannot just wing it when pricing jobs, because if we're not pricing jobs correctly, we're going to leave ourselves so exposed and wide open, and we're gambling that the price we've put in is correct and it's going to come in on time, on budget, right? And praying that there's enough money left to end at job. You can't do that, right? You cannot do it. You've got to price jobs correctly. Now, me and Julie have worked with hundreds, and I mean hundreds of Trades Freedom Club members to help them understand these numbers, but also to teach them how to price jobs correctly. And we had that many people saying to us, Craig, honestly, Julie, since you've shown us how to price jobs correctly, yes, we were a bit sceptical about putting those prices in because they're higher than what we have been charging. And that's why we were in a financial pickle. But now we're pricing jobs correctly and winning jobs. Obviously, we're making profit and we're either chipping away at the debt that we were in and we're paying that off with the additional profit we're making, or we've paid the debt off and now we're purely into profit. And for the first time ever, we've got a savings account where we're racking up, tens and tens of thousands of pounds worth of savings. Amazing. So then me and Julie got our heads together and said, hang on a minute. If there's so many people not pricing jobs correctly, what can we do about it? So between me and Julie, we built a spreadsheet, a very simple spreadsheet that teaches you all the elements and helps you price a job correctly. With everything from understanding the correct hourly rates, which I've already mentioned, which when you're looking at an hourly rate, you might be paying someone 25 quid an hour, but that's not what you put in, particularly if they're on the books, because they're not costing you £25 an hour, are they? What they're now costing you is, they're costing you national insurance, they're costing you holiday pay, they're costing you a pension. There's going to be sick days where they throw a sickie on a Monday because they've gone out and got pissed up on a Sunday night. There's the downtime days where, let's say you're a roofer or a renderer and you've got, or a landscaper and you're working outside and you can't work them days because you're rained off. Who takes the hit on that? You shouldn't take a hit on it. That should be all factored into your hourly rates. So we've created a spreadsheet where all you simply do is punch in figures and it works out what your hourly rate should be, what you're charging. So assuming we've got the right hourly rate, the next thing that we need to do is work out what overheads are incurred on that job while that job's ongoing. So let me give you an example. For some of you, you might do a job and it's a 1 hour job. You might be a plumber to go out and swap a washer in a tap and it takes you an hour. Whilst you've been at that job over that hour, you've still got overheads that you're paying for. You've still got running costs that need factoring in to that 1 hour labour. Or you might be like me, more of a building contractor, where we might be working on a loft conversion for 9 weeks. Okay, well, over the course of that 9 weeks, we're going to incur running costs and overheads for our business to run. Who's paying for them? Your customer has to pay for them. So as well as working out your hourly rate, this pricing, what we've called it our profit and pricing calculator. This calculator will work out what your overhead rate is and then add it onto your hourly rate. So in other words, what we're doing is we're covering the running costs of our business in the labour rate that we're charging per hour. But then we've got to factor in our materials. And for some of you, you might be quoting, you might be busy, let's say a builder, and you're booked up 9 months in advance. But you're having to price jobs like now, but you're not due to start them for 9 months, which means the likelihood is the materials have gone up by the time you get to start the job. So we need to factor that in. It may also well be that you're a plasterer, for example, and you're quoting a big job where there might be thousands and thousands of meters of boarding, taping and skimming. And you've got to provide all the boards and the tape and the skim, or the multi-thistle, whatever it is you're using. What I'm saying is you need to factor in that you might miscalculate the amount of boards needed or bags of plaster, right? Or you get there and there's wastage on the job because, I don't know, people who put in metal studs up or timber studs up, you've caught them up and therefore there's not as much materials, let's say, that you need. Or there might be more materials you need. The materials have got to be calculated accurately, and you've got to add a percentage on for waste or a percentage on for increased prices. How do you do that? Because that needs factoring into your hourly rate. So inside this profit and pricing calculator, it works out your labour costs, it works out your overhead costs, it works out your material costs. But then beyond that, it looks at your profit margin. How much are you going to add on as a profit margin and where do you get that figure from? It then calculates your gross profit. It'll then calculate your net profit. In other words, if this job goes according to plan, and by the time we've paid all his overheads and we've paid all his materials and all his labour and we've paid our tax, this is how much is left, which is your money. And it works all this lot out for you. It teaches you how to price jobs correctly. Because I know for sure that 80% of the people that are listening to this episode, 8 out of 10 of you will be pricing jobs wrong. And therefore you're losing money before you've even started. So what I'd like you to do is go and check out episode number 63. Because in episode 63, I go through what I've just covered now in a lot more depth and context and more detail and explain it to you so you can make notes and start pricing jobs correctly. However, if you want to get your hands on our profit and pricing calculator, if you're a Growth Club member, this is all free. It's all inside the Growth Club and our membership. You download it. We've given you tutorial videos showing you how to use it, really easy and simply. All that lot is inside our Growth Club. Go and access that now. If you're not a Growth Club member and you want to join us and you want to get access to that pricing calculator, click the link in the show notes and the description of this episode, click on Growth Club, and you can come and join our Growth Club and get access to this, plus a whole host of other financial training inside our Growth Club. Step number 4 of how we're going to increase our profits and get a better positive cash flow is, write this down, payment terms, right? Payment terms. Now, what I mean by payment terms is this. You are not your customer or client's bank manager, right? So why is it in the trades or construction industry, why is it that we're one of the only industries that you can even think of whereby you've got to use your own capital and your own money or your own profits to fund the stranger's job? Let me say it again. You're not the bank manager of your customer or client. Therefore, you should not be using your own money to finance some stranger's job. It's unheard of, isn't it, in any other industry or sector where they've got to put all their money in to do something for you. You go to Tesco's, you can't just buy your shopping at Tesco's, get to checkout machine and go, oh, I'll pay you in a week's time if that's okay. It's unheard of. You don't go and use a solicitor and a solicitor says, oh, don't worry about everything. We'll just pay for everything out of our own pockets, yeah? We'll fund your whatever legal advice you want for free, and then we'll invoice you at the end. It doesn't happen in many industries other than trades and construction. Who brought that in? It's crazy. But what do? Because that's the norm. Oh, we've got to buy all the materials out of our own bank account for a stranger's job. We've got to pay all the labour for a stranger's job. We've got to use our VAT money as an overdraft or go into a big overdraft and incur costs and risk to finance a stranger's job. It's ridiculous. Whoever made up this 30 days payment terms, 60 days payment terms, 90-day payment terms if you're in commercial or industrial sector sometimes, why on earth should everybody have to wait for the money and you use your mortgage money or your savings money to finance a stranger's job? I just don't get it. But I used to do this years ago. You see, when we used to start, let's say, an extension or a loft conversion, I wasn't confident enough in saying to Mrs. Jones, oh, Mrs. Jones, I need to take a deposit off you. I need to have interim payments from you. I'm going to leave the smallest amount of money left at the end of the job, and then I'm going to invoice you. I didn't say any of that because I wasn't confident. So what did I do? I get 20 grand, 30 grand into an extension or a loft. And then after X amount of weeks, I pluck up courage to ask Mrs. Jones for a payment. But here I am now, 30 grand out of pocket. And I used to run 7 loft conversions at a time. That's over 200 grand out of pocket at any one time. Why on earth should I put myself in that vulnerable position? Just because tradespeople are brainwashed into thinking, oh, we'll finance a stranger's job. No. If they want the job doing, they've got to finance their own job. You don't use your money, your savings, your mortgage money to finance somebody's job. If they want it doing, they finance it, not you. So what we need to do is we need to put payment terms together that suit us, not necessarily your customer or your client. Because if it were up to your customer and it were up to your client, they won't pay you a penny until the job had done. And then even when job's done, and even if they're happy with it, they'd still try and mess you about with paying you or take another week or 2 weeks to pay you. How disrespectful is that? So you've got to start thinking like this. I'm going to do a job and I've got to make sure that at each stage of that job, I have got enough money from the customer or from the client that if that job ever came to a grinding halt for whatever reason, you fell out with customer or customer ended up not having the money in the first place to pay for the job, you can't put yourself in a vulnerable position and at risk of them not paying you. So I had this idea years ago that I wanted to become a cash-rich company. In other words, I wanted to make sure that I got enough money from my customers that had been paid to me. So no matter what happened at any stage of that job, if they decided to not pay me for whatever reason, I'd always have enough money out of that customer to have covered all my costs and a little bit left over for the time we'd spent on that job as profit. Now, you might say, hang on a minute, Craig, I'm a plumber, right? And I'm going to go and do that tap. And all it's a case of is changing a washer to stop the leak, and I'm going to invoice them 70 quid. Okay, I get that. In that circumstance, you're not going to say, well, pay me a deposit, then pay me an interim payment after 10 minutes of me being there, and then pay me final invoice as I'm putting my tools away. It's 70 quid. Your business is not going to go bust because the customer hasn't paid you 70 quid. Are you with me? You're not going to lose your house because the customer's not paid you 70 quid. Having said that, I'd still take a deposit off them at the point of ordering, and that could be just a 20% deposit. I'd still take something off them as commitment. Or you might say, well, hang on a minute, Craig, I don't work in domestic market. I work like business to business. I work for the big boys, right? And I'm dictated to by their payment terms. And they state that they will pay me 30 days after month end, or it might be 45 days after month end. Well, you've got two options at this stage, haven't you? Either number one, you go back to that main contractor, let's say, and you tell them or explain to them, is there any possibility of us being able to speed these payments up? Okay, I know that you normally pay on 45 days, but could we bring that down to 14 days? And I'm telling you now, the amount of my inner circle members in particular that have gone back to a main contractor thinking there's no way they're going to do it. And you know what? They've done it. So they've increased them at a more positive cash flow because they've gone from 45 days to 14. But the other thing is, you've got to think of this as risk. And if you are dancing with the big boys in commercial side, it's part of the beast, isn't it? It's part of the territory that you're in, that you're going to get dictated to by the big boys. Now, when I was doing the shop fitting back in the day, we were doing shop fitting and bar fitting. We were working through night, ghosters. We were doing everything. I couldn't sleep at night knowing that a shop fitting company owed me 200 grand. And then here's me hoping and praying that 200 grand is going to drop in at 45 days. And then it goes to 46. Then it's up to 50. Now I'm sweating. Now I'm really concerned. And we're ringing their accounts department up. And then they're saying, oh yeah, we'll send it out next week. I couldn't sleep. So the point I'm making here is, if you choose to work in the commercial side, industrial side, and dance in the circles with the big boys and the main contractors, if you choose to do that, then that's part and parcel of the risk that you bring. Again, if we can get their payment terms down, brilliant, but that's the risk that you take. For me, back then, I didn't want that amount of risk, because if anybody went bust on me for 200 grand back then, I wouldn't have been able to sustain that. It would have dragged me under with them. And I didn't want to put myself and my family in that situation. So I moved away from the commercial side and I moved into domestic side, where I was in control of my finances and I could bring in interim payments and deposits. Are you with me? So I structured our payment terms to benefit me should anything hit the fan, which meant our customers had to pay us a deposit. That deposit then went and sat in a high interest account, because we couldn't start the job for 9 months because we were always booked up 9 months in advance. So that would get put into an high interest account, earning me interest over that period of time. We'd then have 2 different interim payments, one where building inspector came out and inspected all the floor joists and steels and structural side. So the customer knew that the job had been signed off by building inspector at that stage. Then I'd request a payment. Then I'd request another payment at the point of plasterboarding. In other words, before we hid all the insulation that we put in loft, like your king span and all that lot, before we hid all that with plasterboards, we'd get another building inspector inspection done. I'd take another payment. And our average job were about 70 grand. But by the time that final instalment had been paid, there were only 1 invoice left to pay. And that was at the final day of the job. So we'd leave £1,000 back to the end of the job. So we'd had 69 grand in this example off the job. We'd leave £1,000 back right till the very end, because I knew that even if the customer didn't pay me that £1,000, I'd got enough money off the job to pay my labour, pay my materials, pay my overheads, pay the tax, and still have profit. And that is what I call a cash-rich company, where you've always got enough money off the job to cover yourself. Now, listen, I am not on about trying to rip people off, take too much money off customers. That's unethical. We don't do that. What I'm saying is you've got to protect your own asset. You should not be financing a stranger's job or project just because we're in the trades industry. If Mrs. Jones wants her boiler fitting, if Mrs. Jones wants an extension building, if Mrs. Jones wants her house re-rendering, Mrs. Jones has to pay for that in stage payments. You should not be using your own money. You should be using your customers' money to finance your customers' jobs. Now, the podcast episode I want you to go and listen to that's going to delve down into more context and depth and strategy around how we do this is episode number 14. And that's called How to Structure Your Payment Terms to Avoid Negative Cash Flow Problems. That's episode number 14. And the fifth and the final way of increasing prices and getting a positive cash flow is arguably the simplest strategy you can do. All it takes is a mindset shift. And you can make this decision like literally within 2 minutes. But some of you won't do it because of the mindset that you've got. So write this down. Step number 5 is just increase your prices today. Put your prices up today. And what I mean by this is, it's very simple, isn't it? You could put your prices up by another 10% today, and I'm guessing 99.9% of your customers and clients won't even bat an eyelid. But here lies the problem. You've got a mental block about increasing your own prices. And there'll be some of you sat there now listening to this episode and you'll be going, Craig, I can't put my prices up. And I'll go, why can't you put your prices up? And you'll tell me, Well, I'm already more than our competitors. I'm already at the top end. I'm already at the high end, and I'm losing work already because I'm so expensive compared to other people. And I say, what's that got to do with putting your prices up? You can still put your prices up. No, I can't. I'm going to lose work. No, you won't lose work. You'll lose the work if you've got the mindset that you've got now. You'll never make more profit unless you're prepared to put your prices up. Some people haven't put the prices up for the last 6 months. Some people haven't put the prices up over last year. If you're not putting your prices up on a regular basis, I am telling you now, with inflation, the cost of living, the cost of materials, the cost of labour, national insurance going up by this Labour government, all this lot is meaning you're earning less profit. And therefore, you might be falling into a negative cash flow. You've got to keep putting your prices up. Now, there are some rules around putting your prices up. You can't just literally stick your prices up tomorrow without adding more value to what you're bringing. You can make the decision right now in your mindset and agree with yourself that your prices are going to go up, but there's certain things that you need to implement first to allow your prices to go up so you can show your customers added value on why your prices are going up. But when I teach my inner circle members all this, when we do a full, basically what I'm sharing with you today, plus a whole host more, we spend an entire month just working on this. Every day, working on this strategy of increasing profits. And when I say to them, just trust me, put these measures in place and then put your prices up by 10%. 99% of the time, nobody will bat an eyelid. So they'll do it. They'll put the prices up. Nobody bats an eyelid. And then I'll say, right, what do you think I'm going to tell you to do now? And they'll go, put prices up again. I'll say, exactly, put your prices up again until you hit a ceiling point where you can't put them up anymore because you've done all the strategy work that I've told you to do. You've added more value. Now you're at a ceiling point. But what many trades businesses do is they'll try and put the prices up without increasing value to the customer. Are you with me? So let me just share with you some tips that you need to work on to enable you to add more value, allowing you to put your prices up. So remember, we can make a conscious decision right now in this split second to put them up, but there's a little bit of work that we need to do behind the scenes to make sure that we're adding value. And these are the following. Number one is you've got to make sure that your branding is quality. Now, I know you're going to tell me, oh, my branding is quality because I did it, or I've had it since day one, or it's got my name in it, or my initials in it, or my kids' names in it. All this lot is nonsense. If your brand doesn't represent where your business is going and the future vision of your business, and your brand and your business name still looks like it was when you set your business up, however many months or years, or in my case, over 3 decades ago, if your branding still looks like you were when you set up your business as a one-person band, whatever you are, and it's got your name in it, or your initials in it, or you're a plumber and you've got a flame in it, or you're a roofer and you've got a triangle in it, come on. That's just tacky. That's just got amateur, one-person, small fry band wrote all over it. So number one, we've got to make sure that our branding looks absolutely world-class, looks high-end, and is actually looking like the direction that we're going to be in 10 years' time, not where we were 10 years ago as a one-man band. Do you get me? So the branding's got to be right. 2, your marketing has got to be absolutely nailed on. The video tutorials that you're doing, the video testimonials that you've got, the introduction video playing on the homepage of your video, your landing pages, your lead magnets, your ebooks, your guides that you're giving away for free to build your authority and credibility, the awards that you've won, the newspapers that you've been in, the accolades that you've picked up, the accreditations that you've got, the case studies that you've got, all that lot is marketing, and all that lot builds authority. And when you build authority in what it is that you are doing and you're good at in your business, that authority is going to build confidence. So you could look at me and go, well, Craig, I listened to another 3 or 4 other podcasts from trades business coaches. And therefore, why should we listen to you? Because we get great advice from other people. And I'm not disputing that. There are some great people out there sharing some amazing knowledge. But have these people been coaching since 2012? I was the first and original trades and construction business coach. Have they stood on over 550 stages? No. Have they coached over 30,000 trades and construction business owners since 2012? No. Have they won Yorkshire's Businessman of the Year? No. Have they got the most downloaded podcast on Spotify for the trades and construction industry? No. Are they on Fixed Radio as a presenter, as Fixed Radio's marketing and business coach to 1 million of their listeners? No. I've got the credibility. This is what I've done. So therefore, that breeds confidence. If you've got none of this credibility that separates you from your competitors, why should someone pay more to go with you? People pay more to come and work with me because of everything I've just shared and the results that I guarantee that I'll get for a business. That's why people pay me. That's why people want to wait for me. That's why I've got a waiting list of people wanting to work with me, because I've got the credibility. Are you with me? The next thing you've got to work on if you're going to increase your prices is your customer journey. In other words, you can't really start charging IM prices if your business relies on you manually doing everything. So if you're picking up the phone and every inquiry, if you're dealing with every email, if you're dealing with every text and every WhatsApp, if you're the one that's going out to site or home visits doing every survey, if you're the one pricing every job, if you're the one that's in communication with that customer constantly throughout all this, if you're having to stay up till midnight doing your paperwork, your pricing, your quotes, your estimates, if you're the one that's having to put a Saturday shift in to catch up, that customer journey is built around you, not around a business. It's built around you. You've just got yourselves the world's toughest job. But if you've got a business where a customer can land on a landing page at 11 o'clock on a Friday night, watch a video of you explaining who you are, an introduction video and who you help. If you've got 10 video testimonials on that landing page, if you've got 2 downloadable guides that you're giving away for free, if you've got case studies, if you've got more 5-star reviews on this landing page, and then they can go through a vetting form at 11 o'clock on a Friday night and then hit an appointment calendar where the customers pass the vetting process and therefore can book themselves into your survey calendar that then triggers emails and text messages off to that customer with a link in with another introduction video of you thanking them for booking that appointment, where they're going to get automated emails and text messages. Have you got all this lot in? Because if the answer is no, then you haven't got a customer journey that's going to wow your customers. You're just a small-time business with initials of you in your business name, where they're expecting you to do everything, and therefore they're waiting for you to get back to them after 3 days of emailing you. You're not picking the phone up because you're busy on a roof, or you've told someone you're going to get the price back to them by tomorrow, but now it's the day after and now they're chasing you. If that's how you're running your business, you can't charge high-end prices because the value and customer journey that you're offering doesn't back up the prices that you're charging. Are you with me? And if we can't build all this confidence that you are the dogs, and therefore that's why they're paying a little bit extra to go with the best company, if you can't demonstrate any of this through your branding and your marketing and your customer journey, you're going to have an hard-ass struggle trying to charge a premium price. But I can charge premium prices because I've got all this lot in and I've got all the stats to back up the results that I get. Likewise, when I had my loft conversion company before I sold it and set me and my family up financially for the rest of us lives, we got all this back in place, and this were early 2000s. Yet even in today's day and age, some of you still ain't got videos on your websites. You still ain't got video testimonials. You're still not the most reviewed company in your local area on Google. You've still not got case studies. You've still not got a TikTok channel where you're sharing all your valuable knowledge. You've got none of this in place, so how can you charge high-end prices? There's a disconnect between your brand and your messaging and what you're charging. Do you get me? Now, don't just take my word for it. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to point you in the right direction of 3 of my inner circle members that I've all done interviews with live on this podcast, where they're going to share stats with you how they've increased their profit margins by 1,100%. Or took them from turning over a couple of 100,000 to 1.3 million and increasing the net profits. Or took them from, in Ryan's case, one of the examples I'm going to give you, fitting 80 boilers a year to fitting over 300 boilers a year. That's how you make more profit. So here are the 3 video interviews on this podcast that I want you to go and check out, because everything that I've just shared in these episodes have been done by other Inner Circle or Growth Club members that are now massively paying off. So go and check out episode 21. This is Ben Curry. He's an electrician, and we grew his business at the time of recording that video, 1.3 million. Then go and check out episode 23, which is with Christian Baines. And Christian, he's got a CCTV company, right? A security company. We increased his profits by 1,100%, and everything I've shared in this podcast, including Julie, who helped get involved, has transformed his business. Then go and check out episode 24, which is Ryan Price at Surrey Heating, how we took him from turning over a couple of $100,000 to over $1 million, and took him from fitting 80 boilers to fitting 300 boilers a year, and building care plans and over 1,000 5-star reviews. That's authority. So that's episode 21, 23, and 24. I want you to go and check out. So there you have it. That's what you've got to do to make more profit and get a positive cash flow. Let's just have a quick recap on what we've covered. Number 1, you're going to niche down. Remember, it's the products and services that you offer under the umbrella of your business or your trade that makes you the money. Some of them products and services you might be offering now are breaking even, or even worse, losing your money. Get rid of them and replace them with the products and services that are going to make you the money. Number 2, you have to understand the numbers in your business. You've got to. How can you grow a business that's designed to build you and your family a better quality of lifestyle if you don't even know what the numbers mean in your business? Number 3, you're going to learn how to price jobs correctly using our profit and pricing calculator that you can get access to immediately inside our Growth Club. Number 4, you're going to smarten up and sort out your payment terms. Because for some of you, you're not getting paid quick enough, which is causing cash flow problems. If we can speed up the amount of money coming in and slow down the amount of money going out, which payment terms will do that for you, all of a sudden you're going to turn a negative cash flow into a positive cash flow because you've sped up the amount of time it's taking to get paid on your jobs. And you're also, number 5, you're also going to look at increasing your prices. But you can only really increase your prices if you're going to deliver a high level of authority, a high level of confidence, and an incredible customer journey. And again, I've shared 3 podcasts that you can go and listen to of other Inner Circle and Growth Club members that have done just that. Now, yes, some of that is going to take a bit of time to work on, and it did with me. You know, I go back to what I shared with you at the beginning of this episode, where I was skint and I was broke when I started business coaching. And it took me a good year to implement what I'm sharing with you now. But a year later, my circumstances have completely and utterly changed because now I'm making profit, good net profit for the first time ever. A year after that, I was flying. I were absolutely flying. So yeah, it took me a year to 2 years to turn that massive debt and financial problem that I'd created. I'd done it to myself because I didn't understand the numbers. But once I did it, it's like plain sailing. And here I am now, all these decades later, financially free and I'm running 4 businesses. They're all mega profitable. That's what having a business should be all about. It should be about providing a high quality service for a reasonable price that helps your customers solve the problem that they've got. And that then provides you with a financial reward to be able to build a lifestyle for you and your family that I know you can get because I've got over 30,000 tradesmen and women doing the exact same. So it's all doable. Just means you've got to shift your mindset, get stuck into these strategies and do the hard work now. But your future self is begging you to do it now so you can start reaping the rewards in maybe 12 months' time. Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, Craig, I could really do with help, not just on my finances, but everything, marketing, systems, building my team, time management, I need help. I'm going to give you a couple of different options on how we at the Trades Freedom Club can help you. Number 1 is, first of all, listening to all these podcast episodes. This is free. You can get lots and lots of knowledge on all the different areas of a business from this podcast episode, right? But you can also get free help and support inside our Trades Freedom Club Facebook group and community, where we've got thousands of professional tradesmen and women that show up every day to help and support each other to grow their trades or construction business. A link to join our Facebook group is in the show notes and the description of this episode. But then if you wanted to take it to a whole new level, you can consider joining our Growth Club. And once you join our Growth Club, you're going to get access to over 100 pre-recorded videos on every single different area of your business, along with plans and worksheets and templates that you can download and work through at your own pace. But on top of that, every single week, we do live coaching and live training with various different events, from full-blown coaching and training events live on Zoom with me, or as this coming Wednesday, I'm doing a live marketing and business Q&A for our members where they can jump onto Zoom, give me the challenges and the problems, and we solve them there and then, to accountability sessions, to member drop-in sessions. Every week, we've got a host of live training on that you get access to. And on top of that, you're going to get access to a private secret community of tradesmen and women that every single day are helping and supporting each other inside our Growth Club. Again, the link to that is in the show notes and the description of this episode. And if you are getting value from my podcast, could I please remind you to hit the like, share, or subscribe and follow button on this episode so that our podcast episodes can reach more people. And remember, for things to change, you have to change, or all you'll ever have in your pocket is change. I'll catch up with you on next week's episode, and I'll meet you at the top. Thank you.